let's get started, guys. And on Sunday, if I want to recap what we actually did, right? So we solved some problems on loops, okay? And we discussed the contest questions that were given to you, that is house construction and LCM of two numbers, okay? So the people who are not there on Sunday, please watch the recordings of the class to make sure that you are clear with all the questions that we have discussed, okay? So guys, what is the agenda for today's session, okay? So today we will learn about nesting of loops. And today we'll try to solve some problems on pattern printing. We'll print some patterns and try to come up with approaches. Okay. So let me write down the topic. Nesting of loops. So let's get started, guys, without any further delay, right? So when we were talking of conditionals, right? The if, else, if, else, if, else, if, else, right? All these conditionals we talked about some time back. Okay. And I told you that there is a concept of nesting of conditionals. That inside a conditional, you can put another conditional. Inside that, you can put another conditionals. Basically, you can have many layers of nesting. Okay, what do I mean by nesting? Think of it something like this. If x greater than 5, right? So let's say if this condition is true, you enter inside the if block. Now here you can have another if. Nobody is stopping you, right? If x is less than 10, do something, right? So basically, inside a conditional, okay, when you are inside the body of a conditional, you can have other conditional constructs also. Okay, so ek if ke andar you can have another if. Inside this if you want, you can have another if else, right? Inside this if you want, you can have if else if else if else if kind of a structure, right? So basically, we can put conditionals one inside the other. And we have also tried to solve certain problems where we try to, nest different conditionals together and, try to solve problems. Okay. Now, similar to the way we can nest conditionals, we can also perform nesting of loops. मतलब आप एक loop के अंदर दूसरा loop को डाल सकते हो. That is, inside the body of a loop, you can have another loop. That is what is nesting of nesting of loops. So inside the body of a conditional, you had another conditional. That was nesting of conditionals. Similarly, inside the body of a loop, you can have another loop. That is what is known as nesting of loops. Okay. So if I give you an example, of nesting of loops, right? So now you will say me, hey Adarsh, what kind of loops we can nest, right? So inside a for loop, you can have another for loop. You can have a while loop. Inside a while loop, you can have a for loop. Nobody is telling you, right? Okay, what kind of a loop should be one inside the other, right? So ek loop ke andar, you can put any other kind of a loop, right? Most commonly, you will see nesting between for loop and while loop, right? Do while loop, we rarely use in programming, right? Not very often. So we won't be seeing them, in nesting of loops, right? But for and while loops can be nested one inside the other. That is not a problem. Okay. So guys, let's try to understand how nesting of loops actually works with a couple of examples. Okay. And once we are clear with the basic functionality of how these, nesting of loops actually work, then we can go to some pattern printing, starting from some simple patterns to some very complex patterns, right? So guys, let's get started with an example, right? So how does it actually work? Okay. So let's say, I'm writing a couple of loops, right? So that I want you all to understand what is happening. Okay. So this is a for loop, right? For int I equal to 1, I less than equal to 5, I plus plus. Now we are inside the body of the for loop, right? So let's say I do a system.out.println I. That is, I want to print the value of I. Okay. And now see guys, inside the body of this for loop, I write another for loop, right? So for int j equal to, let's say, 0, j less than 2, j plus plus. Okay. And what I do inside this loop is I just print the value of j. Okay. So guys, this is an example of nesting. Why? Because if you look in the body of this for loop, now, देखो ये जो loop है for int I equal to 1, I less than equal to 5, I plus plus. If you look in the body of this for loop now, you see that there is another for loop. देखो इस for के body में you have another for loop. So that is basically nesting of loops, right? Now the important thing that we need to understand here is how do nesting of loops work? ठीक है कि if I run this program, what is the output that we are going to see? Okay. So guys, let's try to understand what actually happens here, right? So see, I'll just give you a, thing to understand here. Just writing a pseudo code here, right? So that you are able to understand, right? Let's say we are printing I, SOP I, and then you have another for loop for j, right? So I'm just writing this loop in a box for you to understand simply, right? We'll go to compiler also and understand, right? So guys, what happens is how does this loop actually work, right? What is the workflow or what is the flow of execution of this program? So first of all, guys, you come to this loop, right? So what will be the value of I, guys? I gets initialized with the value 1. So the value of I will be 1. And you go and check the condition. 1 is less than equal to 5. So you enter inside this loop. So now you are in the body of this for loop. This is the outer for loop and this is the inner for loop, right? So now you are in the body of the outer for loop. So what is the first line that you see? you see SOP I. So I will be printing the value of I, that is 1. So 1 will be printed. Now guys, what is the next line? See guys, the next line is this for loop, So what will happen guys? Now this for loop will run. Think of the for loop like a, lock. अब आपको यहाँ पे आप कैद हो गए. You are trapped here, right? See, what did I tell you? If you look at a very basic for loop, what actually happens, right? I'm just giving you an idea. You execute all the lines in the for loop, you reach the end of the body of for loop, and then only you go to the next iteration of the for loop. This is what happens. कि भैया आपके for loop के body में जो भी lines of code है, you execute that fully, and then only you go to the next iteration of the for loop. So guys, there is nothing special here. There is nothing special here. First of all, you printed the value of I. Now you have come to this loop, right? So now this loop, you will be trapped inside this loop. This loop will start running, right? So ये loop अब पूरा चलेगा. This loop will run entirely, right? So for j equal to 0. So now the value of j will be initialized to 0. And what I will do, 0 less than 2. So I will enter and I will print the value of j. So the value of j will be printed, that is 0. Okay. Now once this value of j is printed, I will go to j++. Guys, try to understand. This inner for loop has now started running, right? And I cannot come outside this for loop without having executed the for loop for 2 times. Try to understand, guys. ये जो for loop है, this loop will run for 2 times, right? So only you have run this statement 2 times, then only you will be able to come outside the for loop. Think of it like this. If I have another statement SOP yo here. So see what happens, guys. Let's try to trace again from start. First of all, the value of I is 1. 1 is less than equal to 5. So you enter the loop and you print the value of I, that is 1 is printed. Now I come to this line. What is this line, guys? This line is another loop, right? So this loop now will start running. Okay. Dekho guys, I will reach to this line yo only after I come outside of this for loop, right? Once this for loop has been executed completely, then only I will come to this line SOP yo. So what happens, guys? This for loop starts running. So j will get initialized to 0. 0 less than 2. You enter and you print the value of j, that is 0. Then you go to j++, the value of j will become 1. 1 is less than 2. You again enter and you print the value of j, that is 1. Then again you go to j++, the value of j becomes 2. 2 less than 2 is false. So now guys, try to understand. This condition becomes false. And now I will come outside this for loop. That means the inner for loop of j now has been executed. And I come outside of this for loop. So guys, now what is the next line outside this for loop? SOP yo. So yo will be printed. Okay. Now guys, see, you have come to the end of the body of this I wala loop. Dekh lo? Now you have come to the end of the body now. So where do you go? From here I go to I++. I go to I++. So now guys, what will happen? The value of I will become 2. The value of I will become 2. 2 is less than equal to 5. So again, I enter inside the body of the I loop. I print the value of I, which is 2. And again, this loop will run and then I will print yo. So what happens, guys? Again, this loop will run. J equal to 0, you will print the value of j. J equal to 1, you will print the value of j. Then you come outside this for loop and you print yo. Then what will happen, guys? Again, the value of I becomes 3. So you will first of all print the value of I, that is 3. And then again, this loop will start running, right? So j will take a value 0, then 1. And then you come outside this loop and you print yo. Then what will happen, guys? I will take a value 4. So forgive me for my space. Then I will take a value of 4, right? And what you will do? 4 is less than equal to 5. You enter inside the loop, right? And you will print SOPI. That is the value of I, 4 is printed. Then again, this loop will start running. So j will first take a value 0. You will print 0. Then j will take a value 1. You will print 1. Then you come outside this loop. You print a yo. Okay. Then again, I++ happens and the value of I will become 5. You enter. You print the value of I, that is 5. Again, this inner for loop will run. J0, J1 will be printed. You come outside this for loop, print yo. And then when you go to I++, the value of I will become 6. And 6 less than equal to 5 is false. So you will not enter inside this for loop. And you will come directly outside this for loop to here. Job done, right? So guys, if I want you guys to understand what actually has happened, right? How these loops are running, right? So see like this, if I give you. Just giving you a simple idea so that you can understand simply, right? So SOP J karte hain yahan pe, okay? Some fancy, right? The value of J is, and I print the value of J here, right? And here I print the value of I, okay? So now guys, see how does this nested loop actually run? First of all, the value of I is equal to 1. So you print the value of I, that is 1. Now see guys, J will start from 0 and go till 1. J less than 2, matlab J will take values of 1. So when the value of I is 1, J will take a value of 0, then J will take a value of 1. Okay? Then what will happen, guys? You come outside this loop and you go to I++. So now the value of I will become 2. And again for I equal to 2, you will see that J takes value 0, J takes value 1. See, jab I ki value 2 hui, then you enter inside this loop, you print the value of I, that is 2. And then again this loop runs. So J will take value 0 and 1, right? Then again you go to I++, the value of I will become 3. And then you print the value of I, and then again J will take values from 0 and 1, right? Then the value of I will become 4, and you will see J takes value of 0 and 1, right? Then I ka value will become 5. You will print the value of I, and then this loop will run, and j will take values 0 and 1. So this is how nested loops actually work, right? So similar is the case, guys, right? These were two nested for loops, right? This is a nested for loop, right? But you can have two while loops also, right? Something like that also. A for loop and a while loop nested also. That is not a problem at all, right? So how does it work, guys? Let's say while, let's say I'm telling you condition 1, okay, any condition, right? And you basically say SOP, yo, okay? And then you can write while condition 2, let's say you have another while loop body. So guys, what will happen? First of all, you check this condition 1. If it is true, you enter. You will print yo, and then this while loop will run entirely. Only when you come outside this while loop will you go to the outer while loop once again. Okay? ऐसा समझो guys, when you enter inside this while loop, na, first of all, entire body of this while loop will run, and then only you go back to condition 1, right? So ऐसा हो सकता है ना कि this inner while loop might run sometimes, right? So this while loop will run. When this terminates, you come outside, and then you will go to again the condition check. So this is how nesting of loops actually work. It will become more clear when you see some examples, and when we prime numbers from 1 to 500. I vaguely remember, or print Armstrong numbers from 1 to 500, right? So I had a loop like this. If you remember, I had a loop like this for I equal to 1, I less than equal to 500, I plus plus whatever, right? And then inside this loop, we had a logic of checking whether I is a Armstrong number or not. So for that entire logic, we were using another while loop, right? To check if the number is Armstrong or not. So that was also an example of nesting. Inside a for loop, you have another while loop. Because first I will take a value of 1. So you use a while loop to check whether 1 is an Armstrong number or not. Okay. So this entire while loop will run and you will get the answer. Then again, I will take a value of 2. Again, you run this while loop to check whether 2 is an Armstrong number or not, right? So that was our first, instance where we had seen nesting of loops, but I didn't tell you that explicitly, but now I have told you, right? So guys, let's try to run a code with nested for loops to understand the output, and let's confirm whether nesting of for loops is working or nesting of loops is working in the way that we saw, right? So guys, I'm making a loop for it, I equal to 1, I less than equal to 5, I plus plus, a very basic nesting I'm doing, right? So let's say, so first of all, guys, what I will do, I will print the value of I, right? So system.out.println, let's do here, the value of, or ऐसे इतना बड़ा नहीं लिखते, I is equal to, what is the value of I, guys? Plus I. I will just print the value of I. Okay. And once I printed the value of I, then I will run a loop for j. Let's say I run j from 0 and j less than 5 or j less than 2. Okay. J plus plus. And what I will do is inside this loop, I will be printing the value of j. Okay. So j is equal to j. Okay. So guys, what kind of an output I am expecting? First of all, I will take a value of 1 and you will print I equal to 1. Then you will enter inside this loop, and what will happen, guys? This loop will run for 2 times. So you will print j equal to 0, j equal to 1, right? Then you come outside this loop, and let's say, just for fun, let's have another line. Yo, okay? So once you have printed j equal to 0, j equal to 1, you then print yo, okay? Now you go back to this loop, I plus plus, and value of I will become 2. Again, you enter, you will print this line, I is equal to 2. Okay, अब I का value 2 है. Now again, this for loop will run, and you will print j equal to 0, j equal to 1. I'm just telling how these loops are actually working, right? Now you come outside this for loop, and you will print yo. Now see, guys, just try to understand the different, blocks that you see here. देखो, this entire thing that you are seeing now, this entire thing, within these two curly braces at line number 13 and line number 21, this is the body of the I wala loop, right? So when you come to the end of this body, that is when you print yo, then you will go back to I plus plus. Now what will happen, guys? The value of I will become 3. Okay. So I will enter, I will print I equal to 3. Then again, this for loop will run and you will print j equal to 0, j equal to 1, right? Then I will come outside this for loop and I will print yo. Okay. Then I go to I plus plus, I will take a value 4. And this process will continue till I ka value is 5. So let us try to run this code, guys, and verify ourselves whether it is working fine or not. Okay, let's see, guys. ऊपर चलते हैं, हाँ, चलो. So if you see here, right, what is the value of I? I equal to 1. And for I equal to 1, you print I equal to 1, then this loop will run, right? So you will see j equal to 0, j equal to 1. Then you come outside this loop and you print yo. Next, the value of I will become 2. And again, for I equal to 2, j will take a value 0, j will take a value 1. And then you print yo. Then I will take a value 3. Again, you see j equal to 0, j equal to 1. Okay, you come outside this loop, you print yo. Then I will take a value of 4. You will print I equal to 4. You will enter, then this loop will run and you will print j equal to 0, j equal to 1. Come outside, print yo. Then again, go to I plus plus. What will happen? I equal to 5. Then again, you will have j equal to 0, j equal to 1, you will be printed. And this time when you go to I++, the value of I will become 6 and you will not be granted entry inside the, this loop, right? So my program terminates. You will come outside this for loop, which is line number, this 22, which is nothing. So your program terminates. So guys, are you able to understand the flow of execution of nested loops? How nested loops are working? कैसे चल रहा है? Are you able to understand the output? What's going on? Yes. Great. Okay, we'll take examples also. J की value 2 time print हो रही है, जबकि I की value 1 time ही print हो रही है. Because see now, this loop is running for 5 times ideally, right? But every time this loop runs, the inner loop will run now. 2 time चलेगा, and I'm printing the value of J, right? Okay. We will take examples and you will be able to understand it even better with that. Don't worry. Okay. So this is how guys nesting of loops actually work, right? And there is no theory in nesting of loops, right? It's more about practical problem solving and understanding via that. So we will take that route. Okay. So LFQ is telling us to take j less than equal to 5. Okay. So if you do that, what will happen? First, I will take a value of 1. You print the value of I, that is 1. Then this loop will run. So j will take values from 0 till 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you will print yo, and then again you will go to I++, right? So if you run this, what will happen? देख लो, कुछ नहीं होगा. वो जो j की values आ रही है, they will increase. I equal to 2. So for I equal to 2, j will take values from 0 to 5. And then you will print yo, then you will go to I equal to 3. Then again j will take values from 0 to 5, right? So this is the basic flow of execution of nested loops, right? And you will see that we are going to use nested loops very often so that you also become clear with the implementations and idea. But what I want you guys to understand is basic flow. At least you should be able to interpret the output. Applications we will see as time progresses, right? But you should be able to understand how we are using nesting of loops, right? कैसे output print हो रहा है और कैसे चल रहा है ये पूरा program, right? Okay, guys. So the other thing that I wanted to tell before I move forward, right, is the usage of a break, right? What did I tell you guys? Break is used with loops, okay? So guys, if you write a break here, I'm just telling you, right? So मैंने क्या बोला था? Break associates itself with the nearest loop at the same level. So see guys, this break is inside the body of this for loop, right? So this break will make you come outside this for loop of J. Okay, जो basic flow है वही रहेगा, but this break will make you come outside the J loop, not of the I loop, right? If you want to come outside the I wala loop directly, then you need to write a break inside the body of the I loop. Because what did I tell you? Break associates itself with the nearest loop, okay? With the nearest loop, right? So if you are writing break here, then break is inside the body of this loop. So break जिस भी loop के body में होगा ना, तुम उस loop से बाहर आ जाओगे. So if you are writing break here, then break is present in the body of this I loop. It is directly associated with the I loop, right? But so this break will make you come outside the I loop. But if you write a break inside the body of the J loop now, then break will get associated with the nearest loop at the same level, right? So see, अभी आप तुम लोग argue कर सकते हो कि hey आदर्श, break is inside the body of I loop also and inside the body of J loop also, right? Because ultimately this loop is inside I wala loop only. So why will break not let us come outside the I wala loop? But think of it like this way that there are two locks. Break क्या है? Break jail break है ना. But भैया तुम दो loop के अंदर फंसे हुए हो. एक loop के अंदर एक loop है. So break will only make you come outside the nearest loop. See? So break is inside the body of this J loop. So using this break you can come outside the J loop. So think of it like this. There is this one big loop. Okay, this is the I loop. And inside the body of the I loop you have another J loop. ऐसा समझो. This big square is the body of the I loop, and inside the body of the I loop you have this J loop, and you are writing your break here, right? So break will make you come outside of the body of the J loop. एक बार में एक ही layer तोड़ सकता है break. Okay? So you understand, right? If you use a break inside the body of the J loop, then you will come outside the J loop, and if you use a break inside the body of the I loop directly, then you will come outside the I loop, right? Okay. So guys, now let's try to see what are some of the practical example of practical applications or use cases of nested loops, right? So you will see that nesting of loops come into usages when we actually try to go with matrices, okay, 2D arrays and matrices, but that is for later, right? And in many problems you will see that in the brute force approach that we talk about, right, you will see that nesting is very frequently getting used, right? So in that question that we did, Armstrong numbers from 1 to 500, right, we use nesting of loops. So many problems will be using nesting of loops. So let's get started with our first question at hand today, right? And I have basically formed an agenda for today if you look here, right? So first of all, I wanted to highlight to you all the basic flow of nested loops. So that has been done, right? So now we will try to print an M cross N grid of stars. So what do I mean when I say this, right? So let me try to explain the problem to you first of all, and then we'll try to develop a solution for it, right? Okay. So guys, what I asked you is, you will be taking two numbers input from the user, m and n. You will be taking two integers input from the user, m and n. ठीक है? अब मेरे को क्या प्रिंट करना है? I have to print m lines. I have to print m lines. And on every line, there should be n stars. Let me repeat it. Let's say the user gives the value of m as 3 and the value of n as 5. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ guys? There will be 3 lines. And in every line, we need to have 5 stars. इसका मतलब कैसा आउटपुट दिखना चाहिए? Every line you need to have 5 stars and there will be 3 lines. Just forgive my drawing. I think you'll understand. Okay. So m equal to 3 means there are 3 lines. See, this is line number 1, line number 2, line number 3. And every line has 5 stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is what we want to do. First of all, you will ask the user ki, hey user, बताओ कितना line print करना है. Tell me how many lines you want to print. And then you will ask the user n, how many stars you want to print in every line. Okay. So guys, is the question making sense? What I'm trying to say? Is the question making sense? You need to print m lines and in every line there should be n different stars. Okay. Not getting. Okay. Let's go to the PPT. One question. Yeah, I'll come to questions. 1 second, guys. We have enough slides, right? Okay. So see, guys, what I am asking the user is m. Okay. So I will read an integer m input from the user. And what is m, guys? Think of m like the number of lines. कितना line मेरे को print करना है वो m है. Okay. So if m is equal to 3, that means I need to print 3 lines. 3 line का output मेरे को print करना है. Okay. So m is basically nothing but the number of lines that you need to print. Okay. And then the user will tell you n. N भी बताएगा. If let's say n is equal to 4, that means n is nothing but the number of stars in every line. कि बॉस मेरे को 3 लाइन प्रिंट करना है और हर लाइन में 4 स्टार होगा. ओके, सो आई नीड टू प्रिंट 3 डिफरेंट लाइंस एंड इन एवरी लाइन देयर शुड बी 4 स्टार्स. दैट इज व्हाट इज understandable by this input. So what should be my output, guys? The first line should contain 4 stars. This is line number 1. The second line should contain again 4 stars and the third line should also contain 4 stars. ठीक है? M is equal to 3. That means I'm talking of 3 different lines and every line has 4 stars. So that is what I mean when I say M cross N grid. Okay. So there are 3 rows. Dekh lo, 1, 2, 3. 3 lines are there. And in every line, you have 4 stars. N is equal to 4. Okay. Is everyone clear with the question? Can you use 2 breaks? Yes, you can, but one you can use, right? That depends on what kind of a question you are, what kind of a code you are writing, right? You can have 2 breaks inside different conditions, right? But break not getting. Break के बाद क्या print होगा? So it just depends on the flow that you are writing, right? Where you are using break. So whenever you hit the break keyword, you will come outside that loop, and then whatever is there, that will be printed, and the flow will keep on continuing, right? Okay. So n is a user input, right? So think of it like m and n are inputs that the user will give you, and you need to print an m cross n grid of stars. That is, m lines will be there, and in every line there will be 4 stars or n stars, right? So now, guys, let's try to understand how do I solve this particular, kind of a question. So guys, try to focus and try to understand this. This is the first time you are seeing this. But once you start getting a hang of it now, the other questions that we are going to do will be simpler to understand and simpler to follow. Okay. So guys, how many lines do we have to print? We have to print m different lines. Does everyone agree? मेरे को m different lines print करने का है. M is equal to 3, so I need to print 3 different lines, right? So what do I tell you? What do I tell you is, let's run a loop like this. देखो. For int I equal to 1, I less than equal to m, I plus plus. Now think of it like I is telling you your line number. Okay. So देखो guys, imagine that when I is equals to 1, I am talking of line number 1. When the value of I equal to 2, I am talking of line number 2. When the value of I is 3, I am talking of line number 3. Okay. So I equal to 1 means you are at the first line. I equal to 2 means you are on the second line. I equal to 3 means you are on the third line. Okay. So I am standing on the ith line. Think of it that you are, or whatever, you are standing on the ith line. I am standing on the ith line, right? Now guys, what do I want to do? Let's assume that the value of I is equal to 1, right? Assume karo value of I is 1, okay? So I am standing in the first line. My cursor is in the first line, right? So what do I need to do, guys? I need to print 4 stars. I need to print 4 stars, right? Or more precisely, I need to print n stars. So मैं क्या करूँगा भाई? I am standing on the ith line now. So let me print n stars in this particular line. So what I will do? Run another loop. For int j equal to 1, j less than equal to n, j plus plus. Okay. And what I will do? System.out.print. I will just print star. So now guys, try see what actually happens. You will understand, right? So first of all, think that there is no output, right? So first of all, the value of I will be 1. तो अभी I का value 1 है. और ऐसा समझो guys, when the value of I is 1 ना, think that your cursor is in the first line. देखो, try to follow me, you will understand it very clearly, right? So see, first of all, the value of I will be 1. So think of it like when the value of I is 1, your cursor is in the first line and you want to print the contents of the first line. ओके, आई इक्वल टू 1 का मतलब आप फर्स्ट लाइन पे खड़े हो, आपको प्रिंट करना है कंटेंट्स ऑफ फर्स्ट लाइन. तो चलो भैया काम शुरू करते हैं विदाउट एनी फर्दर डिले. सो व्हाट शुड बी कमिंग इन द फर्स्ट लाइन? आई नो दैट 4 stars will be printed on the first line. Okay, or n number of stars will be printed on the first line. So what will I do guys? Let's run a loop. So j equal to 1, j less than equal to n, j plus plus. Okay, so how many times will this loop run guys? j 1 से लेकर n तक जा रहा है. So this loop will run for n different times, and every time this loop runs, a star will be printed. So you will see that I am printing star, 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 star. 4 बार ये loop चला, and I have printed star 4 number of times. Do you agree till here? And the cursor will be standing here, right? See, I am using a system.out.print, right? So after printing the star, the cursor is not moving to the new line. Okay. So this loop will run for n times, and I have printed n stars in line number 1. Do you agree till here? Let's see. Yes. अब मेरे को एक चीज बताओ, when you come outside of this for loop, do you agree with me that the contents of line number I are done? When you come outside the j wala loop, do you agree that you have printed the contents of the ith line? You have printed 4 stars, right? So guys, what should I do? You just need to move your cursor down. Right? So I will say system.out.println. So after doing this, what will happen? The cursor will come to the next line. And then I will go to I++, that is I equal to 2. And when the value of I equal to 2, see guys, my cursor is already standing for me on line number 2. Okay, let me try to repeat it once again on a fresh slide so that you are able to understand. And we'll also try to do a dry run, right? Diamond सबसे last में होगा boss. Diamond is the most difficult. If you don't understand the simple ones, diamond will go like a bouncer. Okay, so let's try to understand it, right? So let's say for my case, I am telling that m is equal to 5. That is, I want to print 5 lines, and n is equal to 3. Okay, n is equal to 3. So how do I write my code guys? See, ऐसा समझो, I है ना, I will tell me the line number. So first of all, the value of I will be 1, and you will print the contents of the first line. Then the value of I will be 2, you will print the contents of the second line. Then the value of I will be 3, you will print the contents of the third line. Then the value of I will be 4, you will print the contents of the fourth line. Then the value of I is 5, you will print the contents of the fifth line. Okay? How the compiler knows that we are going to print 4 stars? The value of n is 4 na? Okay. So guys, I is standing for my line number. line number बताता है वो मेरे को, ठीक है? तो मैं start करता हूँ. For int I equal to 1, I less than equal to m, I plus plus. So there are m different lines, right? So first of all, the value of I will be 1. इसका मतलब you are standing on line number 1 and you want to print the contents of line number 1. कर दिया print? Then I will go to line number 2. I का value 2 होगा, that means you are on line number 2. Then for I equal to 3, you will print the contents of the third line. So my variable I is telling me which line I am standing on. मैं किस line पे खड़ा हूँ and मेरे को किस line का contents print करना है. Try to understand it like this. So guys, what is the fundamental meaning of I if I want to understand here is, think of it like you are standing on the ith line. ठीक है? मैं ith line पे खड़ा हूँ. So if the value of I is 1, that means I am standing in the first line. If the value of I is 2, that means my cursor is in the second line. If the value of I is 3, that means my cursor is in the third line. Okay. So I am standing on the ith line and my job is to print the contents of the ith line. So guys, what is the content of the ith line? The ith line will be having 3 stars, n stars. Now, हर line में मेरे को 3 star चाहिए और n stars I want in every line. So what will I do guys? Let's run a loop, right? For int j equal to 1, j less than equal to n, j plus plus. So how many times will this loop run guys? n का value 3 है ना, तो first of all j will take a value 1, then j will take a value 2, then j will take a value 3, right? So this loop will run for 3 times or n times. And what do I want to print? Every time I just want to print a star. Okay. So guys, let us try to understand what happens, right? So first of all, the value of I is 1. So my cursor is initially on line number 1. Okay. I enter and I am standing on the first line, correct? Now this loop will start running. That means I will be, j will take value 1, then 2, then 3. So 3 times this loop will run and I will be printing star. So मैं क्या करूंगा? 1 time I will print star. J का value is 1, I will print star, right? Then the value of j will become 2, you will print another star. Then the value of j will become 3, you will print another star. So when you come outside this for loop, do you agree your cursor is standing at the end of line I? सोच के देखो guys. After you have successfully printed these n stars one after the other, when you come outside this for loop, your cursor is standing at the end of line number I, right? Now from here, where will you go? You will go to I plus plus. I का value 2 होगा. And when the value of I is 2, that means you are on the second line. But भैया cursor को कौन लाएगा second line पे? आप ही लाओगे ना. So guys, once you are done with printing the contents of the first line or the ith line, right? So outside this for loop, I know that I have printed the contents of the ith line successfully. So I will do a system.out.println so that the cursor moves to the next line. So I do here a system.out.println. तो यहाँ से cursor आ जाएगा next line पे. And now from here I will go to I plus plus and the value of I will become 2. And see guys, is it making sense? When the value of I is 2, see my cursor is on the second line. That is I am standing on the second line. Now again this J loop will run. J will take a value of 1. I will print a star. Then J will take a value 2. You will again enter inside the loop, print another star. Then J will take a value 3. Again you will enter inside the loop, print another star. And the cursor is at the end of line number 2. You come outside this for loop and the next line is system.out.println. So once I have printed the contents of the second line, system.out.println will bring my cursor to line number 3. And then again I go to I plus plus. So the value of I will become 3. So guys, try to understand what is happening. First, the value of I was 1. I printed, 3 stars. Let's say n was 3, right? So I printed 3 stars in the same line. And then when I came outside of this for loop, inner wala for loop, I moved my cursor to the next line. So my cursor moved to the next line. And then the value of I became 2. Now again for I equal to 2, my cursor is on the second line. So again I print 3 stars, one after the other, right? Then again I move my cursor to the third line. Then the value of I becomes 3. Again I will print 3 stars, right? Then the value of I becomes 4 and I will again print 3 stars, right? Then the value of I becomes 5. I will again print 3 stars. So guys, try to understand. I is telling you your line number, right? Okay. So you first of all print the contents of line number I. And after you have printed the contents of line number I, you do a system.out.println so that your cursor moves to the next line. Okay. This is what you are doing and this will print the pattern for us, right? So let us try to write this code on the compiler and then we'll try to take doubts if you have. So let's make the program a little bit nice, right? So scanner sc is equal to new scanner system.in, and because we are using a scanner, let's do an import java.util.start. Okay. Now I've made a scanner object. Now what do I need to do? Int m. Let's read a number m input from the user, which is the total number of lines. Okay. And let's read another number n input from the user. That will tell me how many stars per line. Okay. Now what will I do? Guys, try to understand. M different lines aapko print karna hai, right? So I will be telling me my line number. So when the value of I is 1, think of it, you will print the contents of the first line. When the value of I is 2, you will print the contents of the second line. I equal to 3 means you are on the third line. Print the contents of the third line. I equal to 4 means you are on the fourth line. Print the contents of the fourth line. That is what we are wanting to do. So I is basically tracking my line number. So I start I from line number 1, and I go till m, I plus plus. Okay. So first of all, I will take a value 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, till m. That means there are m different lines. So once you are inside this for loop, you know that my cursor, think of it like my cursor is standing at the beginning of line I. Dekh lo guys. When the value of I is 1, that means your cursor is standing at the beginning of line number 1. So now what do you need to do? You need to print the contents of that particular line. So let us print the contents of that line, right? So guys, what is the contents of that line? N stars, right? And अगर मेरे को n stars print करना है one after the other, you can use a for loop, right? Just run a for loop for n times, right? And print stars. हो जाएगा काम. So for n, j is equal to 1, j less than equal to n, j plus plus. Okay. So this loop will run for n times. And every time you come inside the loop body, I will be printing a star. Okay. And see guys, not print and I will use a print. है ना? Because I want to print these n stars one after the other. That is why I use a system.out.print. Okay. So this loop will run for n times and n stars will be printed one after the other. So when I come outside this for loop, I know that, I have printed the contents of line number I. And my cursor is now at the end of line number I. So guys, before I increase the value of I need to move my cursor down also now. Because देखो ना, अब I की value 2 होगी. And what is the meaning of I equal to 2? You are standing on the second line. Your cursor is on the second line, right? So once you have printed the contents of line number I, it is your responsibility to move the cursor to the next line. So when you do a system.out.println, the cursor will move to the next line. ठीक है? अब एकदम briefly इसको try कर लेते हैं trace करने का guys. So I will take m equal to 2, n equal to 3. एकदम छोटा सा, ठीक है? So first of all, guys, I का value is 1. Okay, what happens? This loop will start running, right? So j equal to 1, j less than equal to 3, j plus plus. So first of all, the value of j will be 1 and you will print a star. Okay. Then the value of j will become 2. Again, you will enter and print a star. Then the value of j will be 3. Again, you will enter and print a star. Now you come outside this for loop and my cursor is at the end of line number 1. So system.out.println moves the cursor to the new line. Okay. Then the value of I will increase and it will become I equal to 2. And see guys, your cursor is standing on line number 2. So again, this inner loop will run. J will start from 1 and go till 3 and you will print 3 stars, right? So j equal to 1, you print a star. J equal to 2, you print another star. J equal to 3, you print another star. And the cursor is at the end of line number 2. So you come outside this loop and you do a system.out.println. So my cursor comes down. Okay. It comes at the starting of line number 3. And now I go to I++. So the value of I becomes 3. And see guys, indeed for I equal to 3, the cursor is waiting for me in the starting of line number I or line number 3. Now again I enter in this loop, what will happen? Again, j equal to 1, print a star. J equal to 2, print a star. J equal to 3, print a star. And cursor is at the end of the third line, right? So I come outside and I move my cursor down. Okay? Done? And now when you do I++, the value of I will become 4. अच्छा मैं क्या कर दिया m equal to 2 था मैंने उसको गलती से n ले लिया ठीक है तो 3 और 3 रख लेते हैं चलो then the value of I will become 4 and you will see is 4 less than equal to 3 no it is not right so now nothing will happen so see guys you have successfully printed 3 lines and in every line you had 3 stars okay so let's try to run this code and convince ourselves that it is working fine okay so let's say I want a 3 lines and in every line I want 2 stars right so 3 space 2 I am giving as input. Let's see if it comes out. See guys, you have 3 lines. Dekh lo, 3 lines are there. And in every line there are 2 stars. So it's working fine, right? Let's take another input. Let's take 3 cross 5 maybe. Okay. So 3 lines will be there. And in every line I need 5 stars. Let's see. Dekho guys, 3 lines are there. And in every line there are 5 stars. So yes, the nested loops that we are written that is working fine. And it is printing the pattern for us. Is everyone clear with this example? Just try to follow the meaning of the code. Okay? Just ratna mat ki I equal to ye, I equal to ye, j equal to this. Try to understand the meaning of the code that we are trying to write. Okay. If you understand the meaning, then you will be fine. If j is 2, देखो, j is 2 का मतलब see, try to understand what is happening. Let's say n is equal to 3, right? So first j will take a value of 1, 1 less than equal to 3, you enter and you print a star. Then j will become 2, 2 is less than 3, you enter and you print another star. Then j equal to 3, 3 less than equal to 3, you print another star, right? So this loop is running for n times and it is printing n stars for us in that particular line. Okay. Voices break. Why stars will be printing in horizontal? Why not in vertical? Good question. So see, look at this statement. System.out.print. है ना? तो मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ guys? See, my cursor is at the starting of the line number I. And when I am printing stars, I am not using a print ln. तो cursor star print करने के बाद उसके right में ही बैठा रहेगा. So when you print n star, now these n stars will be printed one after the other. Okay. And only after you have printed the n stars in the line, then only you move the cursor to the new line. Okay. ये चीज समझ लें. Cool guys. So this is the most fundamental pattern that we can print, right? And from here on, the questions will start increasing in level. But for sure, if you understand the fundamental concepts, you will be able to follow.